If you're a man who's had sex with another man at any point over the last 33 years, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration says you may never donate blood. But the Red Cross and other major organizations want to change the policy. Sarav Chidambaram says he felt humiliated the first time he ran into the federal ban on gay men donating blood.
I'm here trying to help somebody's life, and I could be a match to anybody. Somebody's dying, but they cannot use me because I'm gay.
Under a policy dating back to the 1980s, men who have had sex with other men since 1977 are banned from ever giving blood. Yet a man who's had sex with a prostitute or with a female drug addict can donate after a one-year waiting period. Gay men like Sarav say the policy is both outdated and discriminatory.
It's like, you want to burn the house because you saw some cockroach in your house. What do? You go and kill the cockroach, and you're going to keep the house. You're not going to burn the house.
More and more groups are now urging the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to change the rules, including the three organizations that handle most of the U.S. blood supply. American Red Cross spokeswoman Donna Morrissey says science no longer supports a lifetime ban.
The American Red Cross believes that the deferral is not warranted, and we've joined with blood banking organizations to ask the FDA to modify it, to change it. But in the meantime, we are required to follow that regulation.
That means living without the estimated 89,000 pints of blood gay men could be safely donating each year.
Blood has a shelf life, so we have to make sure that we continuously replenish the blood supply, but we also have an obligation to make sure that it's as safe as possible.
It also puts the Red Cross in the difficult position of telling gay men their blood is not wanted.
We are certainly sympathetic for people who are deferred from giving blood, but there's other ways they can contribute. They can volunteer, they can sponsor a blood drive.
But Sarav says those consolations are insulting.
It's telling a human being that you're not equal and we don't want you, but you hang around because we need your help to get this done.
Last month, after hearing objections from conservative groups, a federal panel upheld the current FDA policy.
And if Red Cross says it's okay, why isn't the federal government trying to trying to change this law?
It's a question that's getting increasingly difficult to answer. And with me now is Michael Schenkel of the AIDS Action Committee. Well, welcome, Michael. Is this a big issue in the gay community?
I think that ultimately we are looking to increase the supply of blood available to individuals who need it. Is it a big deal? There are lots of individuals that aren't able to donate blood because of this policy that are absolutely able to, that participate in behaviors that would allow them to give blood.
Yeah. Are you allowed to, let's say, if you wanted to donate blood to a partner or a blood relative, could you do that, or just you can't do it at all?
You can't do it at all. According to the current policies, if you were going to be a self-donor where you were going to be collecting blood for an upcoming operation or elective surgery, you would be allowed to do that for your own blood, but not for someone else.
These conservative groups that were pushing back on this, they said, look, this is just political correctness run amok, that people don't want to offend the gay community, and so, oh, well, we should consider making their blood available. But they're saying, no, there's the concern about HIV, and there was those horrible episodes back in the 80s where a lot of tainted blood got into, the blood supply. And they're thinking, you know what, rather be safe than sorry.
Absolutely. And ultimately, our overall objective is to ensure that the blood supply in America is absolutely the safest it possibly can be. This policy is actually not scientific or medically warranted anymore. When 1985, when that policy was put into place, we didn't have the sensitivity to the HIV testing that we do today. We didn't have the screenings that are currently in place for blood screening. And gay men at that time were at a higher prevalence rate of HIV infection than heterosexuals. But when you actually look at risk categories today, we want to make sure that risk across the board is eliminated or reduced by asking people questions based on their behavior. So improving those questions that are asked prior to donating blood.
But then it gets really personal.
it should get personal. This is about you are donating blood for another person, and sometimes multiple people.
Well, like
for
what
one
would you
unit.
add? What would you add as a question?
Some of the cognitive questions that should be asked would be based on sexual history of an individual, sexual health histories, regardless of if an individual
Have you ever had
identifies
an
gay.
SU?
Well, some questions would be
STD.
talking about if you had a recent history of an STD, if you've engaged in unprotected sexual activities in the last several months.
But see, they don't ask you that now because, as you say, I mean, if a man visited a prostitute or
Right.
drug
Or a
addict.
heterosexual couple,
Yeah, exactly.
that would be engaged in a high-risk behavior. Those questions are not.
They're not asked.
They're not asked. They're not weeded. They're not weeded out during this process. But with gay men, initially indicating that you've had sex with another man automatically excludes you not for any length of period of time, but for your lifetime.
Yeah, because this is the other thing. When this thing went into effect in 1985,
Correct.
it said if you'd had sex with a man since 1977. So
Correct.
if you had sex before that, so now 33 years later or whatever it is, the time span has. So why isn't it just an 8-year time span? Back then it was 8 years, and it was 85 to 77, and now it's just 77 has stayed as the marker. That's the part. I mean, couldn't they move that so it's 7 years prior? Or?
Right. Well, when you look at the other risk categories, like when you talked about a man having sex with a sex worker or a prostitute, or a female having sex with an HIV positive individual, they have a 1-year exclusion where they are deferred from donating. HIV can be detected within a 2-week window period of time after an infection occurs. That's how we have narrowed that gap down. It used to be 6 months.
Yeah, I know, but
in
now they're
testing.
saying we don't want to get into that. I mean, the blood collectors don't want to be the ones monitoring blood. It's too expensive. They can't take and test every blood sample for HIV.
Yes, every blood
is now?
is currently tested. Every sample is tested for HIV, hepatitis, and other bloodborne infections that could be transmitted. This ensures the safety of our blood supply in the country. And when you look,
So then, what is the issue?
the issue becomes that this ban is not scientifically based any longer. That it needs to be changed. That we need to look at those questions that are being asked, because we need to screen everyone for their sexual health practices to ensure that our blood supply is safe. Asking heterosexual couples the questions about heterosexual individuals questions about their sexual health history, transmission history, where HIV could be transmitted, are all essential in keeping our blood supply.
Now, there are some
safe.
people who, though, say they support this ban, including groups of hemophiliacs. They just say, we are out there every day, every other day, getting these blood transfusions. We just don't even want to have to think about it for 1 second. So what's the big deal? It's not like, you're being denied something. You can't give something, but you're not being denied anything.
This is about one individual donating blood. And the idea is, it doesn't matter if that person is gay, if they've had sex with a man having sex with another man. This is about a person who's infected with HIV. We want to eliminate that possibility from our blood supply. And this practice that is currently in place, banning men who have had sex with other men, really doesn't do that. It doesn't get at the heart of the issue. And the argument is really not founded. We want to be able to rule out anybody who has and have
How
them
come the
set out
AMA
different.
and some of these big groups haven't gotten on board with this and said, look, this is ridiculous, it's arcane?
Well, it's the American Red Cross, the American Association of Blood Banks, Blood Centers of America are all backing this change in policy. We could have hundreds of thousands of more pints of blood that are available with no increased risk for an individual that would be receiving that blood.
All right, interesting issue. Michael Schenkel, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Right, that is it for Greater Boston. A reminder to tune in at noon for my radio show on 89.7 WGBH. We'll look at the Alina Kagan Supreme Court nomination with Mary Rose Papandrea, a former student of Kagan's, followed by Callie Crosley at 1. Tomorrow night on Greater Boston, independent candidate Tim Cahill and why he thinks it's a big mistake to drop the MCAS exams. That and more tomorrow at 7. I'm Emily Rooney. Good night. you.